Welcome to Top 10 Archive. From the beginning of forks to a deck of playing cards, in this video we will look at the top 10 origins of things we take for granted. Number 10. The metric system. There are only 3 countries in the entire world that don't use the metric system of measurement. These are Myanmar, Liberia, and the United States. Liberia has since been gradually adapting to it, and Myanmar is currently in the process of making a transition. But the US has been on a long holdout. Without a doubt, the metric system is a vital tool in everyday life throughout the rest of the world. It was first introduced in France in 1795 and soon gained popularity across Europe. This form of measurement soon spread to Asia, followed by Africa. Number 9. Salt. In the past, every pinch of salt, dash of pepper, and spoonful of sugar were hard to come by and hard to obtain. Salt was often used to keep raw meat and fish from spoiling over long journeys when refrigeration was made impossible. Today, West Africa is one of the poorest places on Earth, but due to the abundance of salt deposits, it was one of the wealthiest places in the world between the years 800 and 1500 AD. However, the salt trade goes back even farther. The town of Solnitsara, which is located in modern-day Bulgaria, was a major salt production area that is believed to have flourished from 4700 BC up until 4200 BC. Number 8. Silverware. Forks were first used for cooking purposes only. Knives and bare hands are man's oldest forms of dining etiquette. By 1004 AD, modern Byzantine and much of the Middle East had already begun commonly using forks, but this was done primarily by the wealthy. After a Byzantine princess married the son of the Doge of Venice, his subjects were shocked seeing the utensils being used during their wedding feast. They thought it was an insult to God, who gave her fingers instead of these weird metal utensils. The practice slowly caught on to much of Europe, and in 1608, Italians began to eat with a fork in one hand and a knife in the other. Number 7. Deck of cards. The deck of 52 cards is primarily believed to have Aramaic origins. No one knows exactly where these decks came from, but it is believed either Egypt or Spain is the home country to one of the world's favorite forms of gambling. The invention of cards cannot be traced to an inventor, but the origin of the 52-card deck that we know today is thought to have originated around the 14th or 15th century somewhere in Europe. China had developed its own method of playing cards around the years 600 and 800 AD. In some parts of the world at this time, playing cards were so rare, they acted as IOUs. Number 6. The first selfie. Technological advancements in film and photography have given us wonderful memories forever captured and stored, which at one time would be no more than distant thoughts that the human brain later discards. The concept of taking a photo was first mentioned by Chinese philosopher Mozi in the 5th century BC. It wasn't until 1816 that the first partial photograph was taken by Nicephore Niepce, using a process of coating paper with silver chloride. The first so-called selfie is said to have been taken in 1839 by Robert Cornelius, an amateur chemist and photographer enthusiast. Using a daguerreotype machine, he stood slightly off-center looking into the mechanism, capturing the first selfie, which became popular only in recent years. Number 5. The tampon. In ancient Egypt, menstruation may have been viewed in a positive light. As far back as the 5th century BC, women were known to use things such as papyrus, animal skins, cotton, and vegetable fibers to stop blood flow. In a particularly gross practice, smearing menstrual blood upon the breast was believed to make them perkier. The word tampon is derived from a French word, tampion, which translated to a piece of cloth to stop a hole. Early prototypes of the tampon were commonly used to stop bullet injuries in the 18th century. It wasn't until 1929 that Dr. Earl Huss invented the tampon that women use now. Haas then patented his idea in 1931 and then later trademarked it into Tampax, the biggest tampon company known today. Number 4. The printing press. Although newspapers seem more today to be a thing of the past, they could not have been possible without the printing press. The world's first known mechanical form of printing technology first appeared in China and was developed by a printer named Bi Sheng between the years 1041 and 1048. This machine was revolutionary for its time and allowed a single document to be turned into exact duplicates. The press device applied pressure to a print medium which was covered in ink. A sheet of paper would be laid underneath and rotated as text was transferred onto each new page. Without this early invention, things like the modern-day printer and scanner would not be around. Number 3. Toilet paper. The use of toilet paper dates back as far as the 6th century in China. When Muslims first visited the country during the 9th century, they were appalled at the practice. At this time, they believed that man should wash himself with water rather than wipe with paper, which is still in practice in many parts of the world today. Paper used for this purpose was primarily rough and uncomfortable. It wasn't until 1391 that the Chinese emperor ordered the product to be mass-produced and as a much softer material. Almost 300 years later, the practice spread throughout much of the world. The product was soon commercially sold everywhere under the name therapeutic paper. Number 2. The GPS unit. The GPS, which stands for Global Positioning System, is a device installed in countless cars around the world. It is also used by those traveling by air and sea to navigate to the correct destination and find their current location. Compared to others on this list, the GPS is a rather new military invention coming from the United States Department of Defense that first came on the market in 1973. It was used to pinpoint one's exact location with a very small margin of error. Satellites communicate signals with one another which are relayed off of the device. A modern example of this is the use of military drones which feed off of GPS satellites. There is a downside to GPS units, however. Before too long, newer generations will probably lose the ability to read maps. Number 1. The bra. The origins of the modern-day bra can be traced back to 1910. 19-year-old Mary Phelps Jacob was planning her outfit for an upcoming ball. She had chosen a gown that showcased her ample figure, but she found the corsets of the time too restricting for comfort. She had her maid bring her 2 handkerchiefs and a ribbon, which were transformed into the very first bra. Women attending the event flocked to her when they saw how freely she was able to move. 4 years later, the backless brassiere was patented. Although Miss Jacobs has historically received credit for its invention, archaeological evidence shows its existence since the 1400s. Like these top 10 videos? Subscribe by clicking the annotation here and give our video a like. Have an idea for a future top 10? Leave a comment in the section below